The debt revealed. The deep hum of engines filled the cargo ship Eclipse as it drifted through the black void of space. Captain Derek Cole sat in his chair, staring at a small, blinking light on his console. The message had come in an encrypted format, one so ancient it took his ship's computer nearly an hour to decode it. Now, as he read the strange words on the screen, he felt a chill run down his spine. By the Pact of Caldron, humanity's debt is called upon. Your time has come to repay. Derek leaned back, trying to make sense of it. The Caldron were an ancient alien race, known for their vast knowledge and powerful technology. Centuries ago, they had helped humanity survive its darkest hour, a mysterious event no one alive truly remembered. All that remained was the legend. Earth had promised something in return, though what exactly had never been clear. The message provided coordinates for a secret meeting point, with strict instructions to come alone. Derek knew he couldn't ignore it. The Caldron weren't the type to make idle threats. If they were calling in a debt, it wasn't something Earth could afford to take lightly. A day later, Derek's ship docked at an isolated space station, hidden in the shadow of a dying star. The place was eerily silent, its metallic halls dimly lit. 2 towering Caldron guards escorted him to a grand chamber where Earth's galactic envoy, Ambassador Helena Ross, was waiting. Her stern face softened slightly when she saw Derek. "You got the message too, I assume?" she asked. He nodded, showing her the transmission on his datapad. "What is this about? What debt?" Helena sighed, her eyes betraying a hint of fear. "It's worse than we imagined." Before Derek could press further, a Caldron figure entered the room. It was Elder Raxer, their representative to the Galactic Council. His tall, slender form and glowing silver eyes gave him an air of authority that silenced any questions. "Humans," Raxer said, his voice smooth yet commanding, "you stand at a crossroads. Long ago, we saved your species from extinction. In return, you swore to aid us when the time came." "What kind of aid?" Derek asked, his tone sharp. Raxer's glowing eyes narrowed. "The Malvok Horde has declared war upon us. Their fleet grows stronger by the day, and they seek to conquer all who oppose them. We have held the line for centuries, but now we are overwhelmed. Humanity must fulfill its promise and fight at our side." Derek's stomach twisted. The Malvok were the most feared force in the galaxy, known for their ruthless destruction. "We're just one planet. How do you expect us to take on the Malvok?" Raxer's expression darkened. "We do not expect. We demand." Back on Earth, Derek sat in a high-security briefing room, surrounded by military officials and political leaders. Admiral Serena Kane, the commander of Earth's space fleet, was the last to arrive. Her sharp gaze swept over the room as she took her seat. "Let's not waste time," she said. "What's the situation?" Helena Ross recounted the Caldron's demand. As she spoke, the room grew tense. Some officials argued that humanity couldn't afford to get involved in such a dangerous war. Others insisted that refusing the Caldron would mean losing their protection, and likely their place in the galaxy. "What are they telling us?" Serena asked, breaking the heated debate. Derek hesitated, then shared what he had discovered. "The Caldron are afraid, not of the Malvok, but of us." The room fell silent. "What do you mean?" Serena asked, her tone serious. "They've been watching us," Derek explained, "studying our technology, our tactics. They know we've advanced far beyond what they expected. They're not just calling in a debt. They're trying to control us, keep us from becoming a threat." Helena nodded grimly. "That makes sense. The Galactic Council has always treated Earth like an outsider. If we show our true strength, it could shift the balance of power." Serena leaned forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "Then we give them what they want, but on our terms." As the fleet began preparations, Derek couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Caldron's desperation, the Malvok's relentless advance, and Earth's hidden power, it all pointed to a storm that would shake the galaxy to its core. For now, all he could do was follow orders. But deep down, Derek knew this wasn't just about repaying a debt. It was about proving humanity's place in the universe. And when the time came, he was certain the galaxy wouldn't be ready for what humanity could unleash. The fleet's deployment. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before Earth's grand fleet as the first ships prepared to depart from their orbital docks. Humanity's most advanced vessels, crafted in secret over decades, gleamed under the dim light of Earth's sun. At the helm of this colossal armada was Admiral Serena Kane, a legend among her people. Her reputation wasn't built on grand speeches or politics. It was earned through countless battles and victories where the odds were stacked against her. Serena stood on the command bridge of her flagship, the Invictus, watching the final preparations. The crew moved with precision, every movement calculated and efficient. But beneath their disciplined exterior, an unspoken tension filled the air. They all knew the stakes. Humanity was stepping into a galactic war, one they didn't start but couldn't avoid. As the fleet aligned, Captain Derek Cole boarded the Invictus. He wasn't a soldier, nor had he ever been part of a military operation this massive, but his involvement with the Caldron had placed him in the middle of something far larger than he had ever imagined. He stepped onto the bridge, his eyes immediately meeting Serena's steely gaze. "You're late," Serena said without looking up from her data console. "I wasn't exactly invited to this party." Derek shot back, trying to mask his unease with humor. Serena's lips curved into a faint smirk. "You're here because the Caldron wanted you. Something about fulfilling the terms of their ancient pact. Don't think for a second that means you're calling the shots." Derek shrugged. "Trust me, Admiral, I'd rather be anywhere else." The fleet's departure wasn't a quiet affair. Broadcasts across Earth and its colonies showed the massive armada breaking through the planet's atmosphere. Citizens watched with a mix of pride and fear, knowing these ships were heading into the unknown. On board the Invictus, the crew received their mission briefing. Serena addressed them directly, her voice firm and unwavering. "The Caldron have called us to repay a debt. But let me be clear, this isn't just about them. The Malvok horde doesn't stop at conquering a single race. They take everything. If we don't fight now, it won't be long before they set their sights on Earth." Her words struck a chord, but Derek couldn't help noticing something unspoken in her tone. She wasn't telling them everything. 3 days into their journey, the fleet made its first contact with the enemy. A group of Malvok scout ships appeared out of hyperspace, their sleek, angular designs bristling with weaponry. The Invictus detected them immediately. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, "enemy vessels approaching. Small group, likely scouts." Serena nodded. "Deploy the escorts. Let's see what they've got." Derek watched the display as a dozen human corvettes broke formation to engage the scouts. The battle began with a flurry of energy blasts and evasive maneuvers. The Malvok fought with brutal efficiency, but humanity's ships were faster, more agile, and armed with weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Within minutes, the Malvok scouts were destroyed. The victory sent a ripple of excitement through the fleet, but Derek noticed Serena remained cold and unreadable. "That was impressive," he said, breaking the silence. "It was expected," Serena replied curtly. "But don't let one easy win fool you. The Malvok aren't weak. They're testing us." Later that evening, Derek found himself in the ship's observation deck, staring out at the stars. The quiet was broken by the sound of footsteps. He turned to see Serena standing there, her expression softer than before. "You're not just here because of the Caldron," she said, her voice low. Derek raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the stars. "The Caldron didn't just ask for humanity's help. They fear us. They've seen what we're capable of, and they're afraid we'll disrupt their precious balance of power. That's why they've kept our technology a secret from the rest of the galaxy." Derek frowned. "If they're so scared, why call us in now?" Serena smirked. But it didn't reach her eyes. Because they're desperate. The Malvok aren't just attacking. They're annihilating. The Kaldrin think they can use us to win the war and then put us back in our place. But they're wrong. Her words lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. Derek felt a chill run through him. Humanity wasn't just stepping into a war. It was stepping onto a galactic stage, and the performance would change everything. The fleet continued its journey, but the mood had shifted. Suspicion and questions hung over every decision. Derek couldn't shake the feeling that they were marching toward something far greater than anyone had prepared for. As the Invictus approached Kaldrin Prime, the Kaldrin homeworld, the tension reached its peak. A transmission came through from Elder Raxer. His voice was calm, but his words carried an undeniable urgency. Admiral Kane, the Malvok fleet is closing in. Prepare your forces. The fate of our world rests on your shoulders. Serena ended the call without a response. She turned to her crew, her expression fierce and unyielding. This is where we show them who we are. Ready the fleet. As the ships entered formation, Derek stood on the bridge, watching the Kaldrin planet come into view. Its shimmering cities and lush landscapes were a stark contrast to the darkness of space, but above it loomed the Malvok fleet, hundreds of ships waiting for blood. Derek took a deep breath, his hands gripping the railing. Well, he muttered, I guess this is where the fun begins. The Battle of Kaldrin Prime. The fleet burst out of hyperspace, and Kaldrin Prime came into view, a sprawling jewel of silver oceans and emerald continents wrapped in shimmering energy shields. But the beauty of the Kaldrin homeworld was overshadowed by the sight of the Malvok fleet hovering above it. Hundreds of sleek, black warships formed a menacing blockade, their weapons already primed to strike. Admiral Serena Kane surveyed the scene from the command bridge of the Invictus. Status report, she ordered. Enemy fleet detected. The tactical officer responded. 200 ships, heavily armed. Their formation suggests they're waiting for reinforcements. Serena's lips curled into a wry smile. Good. Let's make them regret waiting. On the planet's surface, the Kaldrin cities were a mix of chaos and desperation. Elder Raxer watched the human fleet's arrival from a towering spire, his glowing silver eyes narrowing. Behind him, Kaldrin military officers murmured nervously. They're here, Raxer said, his voice betraying a mix of relief and unease. Let us see if humanity is as formidable as their legends claim. Back on the Invictus, Derek Cole stood on the observation deck, watching the looming battle unfold. He wasn't a soldier, and yet here he was, caught in the middle of humanity's biggest gamble. A quiet beeping on the comms console pulled his attention. It was a private message from the Kaldrin. Captain Cole. Raxer's smooth voice echoed in the room. You are aware of your importance here, yes? Derek frowned. If by importance you mean being dragged into a war I didn't start, then sure. Raxer ignored the sarcasm. Your fleet cannot succeed without revealing its full strength. Be cautious, for the galaxy watches. The message cut off, leaving Derek with more questions than answers. What did Raxer mean by full strength? Did the Kaldrin know more about humanity's capabilities than they were letting on? Serena's voice broke the tension as she addressed the fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Kane. We stand on the edge of history. The Malvok think we're weak, but they've never faced us before. Let's show them what humanity can do. Engage all systems and prepare for battle. The fleet moved into formation, their sleek ships gleaming against the backdrop of the Kaldrin homeworld. The first wave of human corvettes darted forward, firing a barrage of kinetic and energy-based weapons. The Malvok ships responded in kind, their dark hulls lighting up with flashes of plasma fire. The battle was chaos, a ballet of destruction. Human ships weaved through enemy fire, their agility and advanced targeting systems giving them an edge. Malvok warships, larger but less maneuverable, struggled to keep up. Derek watched the battle unfold from the bridge, his heart pounding. They're holding their own, he muttered. Serena glanced at him. For now. As the battle raged, a warning alarm blared across the Invictus. "Admiral," the comms officer said urgently, "a second Malvok fleet has entered the system. They're surrounding us." Serena's expression hardened. "So, they've sprung their trap." Derek leaned forward, alarmed. "What do we do now?" Serena didn't flinch. "We counter with one of our own." She turned to her tactical officer. "Deploy the Sable Wings." Derek frowned. "Sable Wings? What's that?" "You'll see," Serena said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. The Sable Wings were humanity's secret weapon, an elite squadron of unmanned stealth fighters, each equipped with advanced cloaking technology and miniaturized fusion warheads. As they launched from hidden compartments within the fleet's carriers, they disappeared from sight. The Malvok fleet didn't notice until it was too late. Explosions rippled through their formation as the Sable Wings struck with surgical precision, disabling their largest ships and cutting off their supply lines. On the bridge of the Invictus, Serena watched the chaos unfold. "That should even the odds," she said coolly. But Derek wasn't convinced. "The Malvok are still holding back," he said. "It's like they're waiting for something." Serena nodded. "You're not wrong. Let's make them show their hand." The Invictus sent a direct transmission to the Malvok flagship. Serena appeared on their monitors, her face calm but commanding. "This is Admiral Serena Kane of the human fleet," she said. "You've underestimated us, and that was your first mistake. Withdraw now, or we'll show you why humanity survived the darkness." The Malvok commander, a hulking figure with crimson eyes, sneered. "You're bold, Admiral, but boldness won't save you." The transmission ended abruptly, and moments later, the Malvok unleashed their secret weapon, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed even the largest human ships. Its hull bristled with weapons, and its presence sent a wave of dread through the human fleet. "Admiral, what's the plan?" Derek asked, his voice edged with fear. Serena smiled faintly. "The plan? We show them they've underestimated us again." As the dreadnought loomed closer, Serena activated a hidden protocol. A signal was sent to Earth, where a prototype weapon, one the galaxy had never seen, began to power up. Back on the Invictus, Serena watched the countdown. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "the best way to repay a debt is to remind the galaxy who you are." The hidden ace. The dreadnought loomed in the distance like a black star, its silhouette blotting out the light of Calderon Prime's twin suns. The Malvok fleet rallied around it, their confidence renewed by the arrival of their ultimate weapon. On the Invictus, Admiral Serena Kane stood unfazed, her sharp eyes studying the enemy formation. "Admiral, we're detecting an energy buildup in the dreadnought," the tactical officer reported. "Their main cannon is charging." "How long?" Serena asked calmly. 3 minutes, maybe less." Serena nodded, then turned to her communications officer. "Send the signal. Activate Protocol Aegis." Miles away, hidden in the shadows of Calderon Prime's largest moon, a massive structure hummed to life. It wasn't a ship but a spaceborne platform, a prototype weapon humanity had kept secret even from its closest allies. The Oblivion Cannon. Its design was simple yet terrifying. A planet-sized railgun capable of firing energy projectiles faster than light itself. Only a handful of Earth's leaders even knew it existed. On board the Invictus, Derek Cole watched the tactical display as the cannon's activation sent shockwaves across the battlefield. "What is that?" he asked, his voice low with awe. "Our ace," Serena replied. "The galaxy doesn't know what we've been building in the dark. They will now." As the Oblivion Cannon charged, the Malvok dreadnought unleashed its first salvo, a beam of crimson energy that tore through space, obliterating 3 human cruisers in a single instant. The shockwave rattled the Invictus, and the bridge crew scrambled to stabilize the ship. "Damage report," Serena barked. "Shields holding, but barely," the engineering officer replied. "We won't survive a second hit." Serena's expression didn't waver. "We won't need to." On the Kaldrin homeworld, Elder Raxer and his council watched the battle unfold with growing alarm. The Malvok's strength was undeniable, but it was humanity's actions that truly disturbed them. They had no idea Earth possessed such advanced technology. "This is madness," one of the Kaldrin generals muttered. "They're drawing the Malvok's full wrath upon us." "No," Raxer said softly, his gaze fixed on the human fleet. "They're doing what we never dared to do. They're fighting back with everything they have." The Malvok dreadnought prepared for a second strike, its cannons glowing with deadly energy. But before it could fire, a blinding light erupted from the moon's shadow. The Oblivion cannon discharged its first shot, a beam of pure energy that split the void like a divine blade. The projectile struck the dreadnought's hull, piercing through its shields and core with devastating precision. For a moment, silence fell over the battlefield as the dreadnought disintegrated into a cloud of molten debris. The human fleet roared with triumph, their morale surging. On the Invictus, Derek stared at the tactical display, his mouth agape. "Did we just destroy that thing in one shot?" Serena allowed herself a small smile. "Yes, and now they know we can." The Malvok fleet faltered, their confidence shattered. But their commanders weren't about to retreat. Instead, they launched a desperate counterattack, sending waves of fighters and smaller warships to overwhelm the human fleet. Serena's voice cut through the chaos. "Deploy the second wave. Keep their focus on us." Derek frowned. "Second wave? What's that?" "You'll see," Serena replied, her tone cryptic. From the human carriers, hundreds of drones launched into the fray. Unlike conventional fighters, these drones were semi-autonomous, designed to adapt and evolve their tactics in real time. They swarmed the Malvok ships, targeting their weak points with pinpoint accuracy. The battle became a chaotic dance of fire and metal, but humanity held the upper hand. Even so, Serena knew this victory wouldn't last. The Malvok's main fleet was still en route, and the Kaldrin had yet to fully commit their forces. As the battle raged, a transmission came through from Elder Raxer. His face was pale, his usual calm replaced with unease. "Admiral Kane, you've demonstrated your strength, but you've also endangered us all. The galaxy will not take kindly to such a display of power." Serena's response was cold. "The galaxy didn't take kindly to our survival, either. We're done hiding, Elder. If you want to win this war, you'll have to trust us." Raxer hesitated, then nodded. "Very well. The Kaldrin fleet will join you. But be warned, once the Malvok are defeated, the galaxy will turn its gaze upon Earth." The combined forces of humanity and the Kaldrin pushed the Malvok back, their coordination proving too much for the enemy to handle. But Serena knew the war was far from over. The Malvok weren't just a threat. They were a test, and the real challenge would come once the galaxy realized humanity's full potential. As the last of the Malvok ships retreated, Serena turned to her crew. "We've won this battle, but the war is only beginning. Prepare for the next move." Derek, standing by her side, couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and dread. Humanity had proven itself, but at what cost? The galaxy wasn't ready for them, and now the question lingered. Was humanity ready for the galaxy? Humanity strikes back. The battlefield above Kaldrin Prime was a graveyard of shattered ships and glowing debris. The Malvok fleet had retreated, but the silence that followed wasn't one of peace. It was the ominous calm before the storm. The human fleet hovered in formation, its battered but functional ships standing as a testament to humanity's resilience, and its growing reputation as a force to be reckoned with. On the Invictus, Admiral Serena Kane stared at the tactical hologram in the center of the bridge. Her crew worked around her, repairing systems and preparing for the inevitable next move. "Status report," she ordered. "Fleet integrity at 65%. The tactical officer replied. "The Atlas and Mercy are too damaged for combat, but the rest are holding steady. Repairs are underway." "And the Malvok?" They've regrouped outside the system. We estimate another strike within 24 hours. Serena nodded. Good. Let them come. Captain Derek Cole, who had been observing quietly, frowned at her response. You sound like you want them to attack. Serena glanced at him, her expression unreadable. We're not just defending Caldron Prime. This is a message. The Malvok need to understand that Earth isn't a minor player anymore. Derek raised an eyebrow. And what about the Caldron? Or the rest of the galaxy? You think they're going to just accept us after this? No, Serena said flatly. And I don't care. Earth has spent too long living in the shadow of these so-called advanced civilizations. It's time they see what we're capable of. As repairs continued, a message from the Caldron High Council interrupted the quiet hum of the bridge. Elder Raxer appeared on the main display, his silver eyes narrowed. Admiral Kane, he began, his voice sharp, you've made a statement today, but do not mistake this temporary victory for permanence. The Malvok will return with greater force, and the galaxy will question humanity's actions. Serena leaned forward, her tone icy. Let them question us. Let them fear us. But if the Caldron want to survive this war, they'll need to do more than talk. Raxer's expression tightened, but he didn't argue. Instead, he offered a curt nod. Very well. The Caldron fleet will move to support you, but mark my words, Admiral, there are consequences to being feared. The combined human and Caldron fleets began their preparations for the next encounter. The Caldron brought advanced energy shields and long-range artillery to the table, but their ships were slower and far less adaptable than humanity's. Serena worked quickly to integrate their strengths into her battle plans, creating a strategy that would maximize both fleets' effectiveness. While the crews worked tirelessly, Derek found himself drawn to a hidden corner of the Invictus, a room labeled Project Sentinel. Inside, he discovered a cache of data files detailing Earth's secret military advancements. Among them was something called the Leviathan Protocol. What the hell is this? He muttered, scrolling through the encrypted files. Before he could dive deeper, Serena appeared behind him. Curiosity can be dangerous, Captain. Derek spun around, startled. You know about this. I authorized it, she said, her tone firm. The Leviathan Protocol is our last resort, a contingency plan for when all else fails. Derek hesitated. And what exactly does it do? Serena's gaze hardened. It ensures humanity survives, no matter the cost. That's all you need to know. Hours later, the Malvok launched their counterattack. Their fleet had doubled in size, bolstered by reinforcements from their core worlds. The human and Caldron fleets scrambled to meet the onslaught, but this time, the Malvok had a new weapon: swarm drones, thousands of small, fast, heavily armed ships designed to overwhelm their enemies through sheer numbers. The battle was brutal. The drones tore through Caldron ships with terrifying efficiency, and even the human fleet's advanced systems struggled to keep up. Serena remained calm, directing her forces with precision, but Derek could see the strain in her eyes. We can't hold them off forever, he said. What's the plan? Serena didn't answer immediately. Then she turned to her communications officer. Activate the Leviathan Protocol. The officer hesitated. Admiral, are you sure? It's... Do it, Serena snapped. From the heart of the human fleet, a massive ship emerged. The Leviathan, a dreadnought-class vessel that dwarfed even the Malvok's largest ships. Its design was unlike anything the galaxy had seen, with a black, angular hull that seemed to absorb light itself. The ship's energy readings spiked as it powered up its main weapon, a gravimetric implosion cannon capable of creating localized black holes. The Malvok fleet hesitated, their confidence shaken. For the first time, they faced a weapon not even their brutal efficiency could counter. The Leviathan fired its cannon, and the battlefield was consumed by chaos. A swirling black hole tore through the Malvok swarm, sucking ships into its gravitational pull and leaving nothing but empty space in its wake. The Caldron fleet watched in awe and terror. On the bridge of the Invictus, Derek stared at the display, his face pale. "You just destroyed hundreds of ships in one shot, and saved thousands of lives," Serena countered. "This is war, Captain. There's no room for hesitation." As the Malvok retreated once again, the battlefield fell silent. Humanity had struck back with a force the galaxy couldn't ignore. But Derek couldn't shake the feeling that they had crossed a line. "What happens when the galaxy decides we're too dangerous?" he asked. Serena's answer was as cold as ever. "Then we show them that Earth doesn't bow to fear. The galaxy reacts." The aftermath of the battle hung heavy over Caldron Prime. The Malvok fleet had been annihilated, but the scars of the conflict were everywhere. Debris from destroyed ships littered the planet's orbit, and the remains of the Malvok drones still floated among the wreckage. On the bridge of the Invictus, Admiral Serena Kane was reviewing the aftermath. Despite the victory, her expression was grim. The Leviathan protocol had worked, but at a cost, one Serena knew the galaxy wouldn't ignore. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, breaking the silence, "we're receiving transmissions from multiple factions across the galaxy. Some are congratulating us, but most are condemning our actions." Serena raised an eyebrow. "Condemning? For saving them from the Malvok?" The officer nodded. "They're calling our use of the Leviathan a destabilizing act. Some factions are even labeling Earth as a rogue power." In a private chamber aboard the Caldron's orbital station, Elder Raxer convened with his council. A holographic image of Serena hovered in the room, her posture firm and commanding. "You've won this battle, Admiral," Raxer began, his tone cautious, "but your actions have sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Many now view humanity as a threat equal to the Malvok." Serena crossed her arms. "The galaxy's opinion doesn't concern me. What concerns me is keeping Earth safe." Raxer's glowing eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand, Admiral. This is not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of survival. The Galactic Council has called for an emergency summit. They demand Earth answer for its actions." Back on the Invictus, Captain Direct Cole was growing increasingly uneasy. He wandered through the ship's corridors, observing the tired yet determined crew. The sight of them, ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, only deepened his unease about the path Earth was taking. In the observation lounge, Derek found Serena staring out at the stars. He approached cautiously. "Admiral," he began, "do you think we've gone too far?" Serena didn't turn to face him. "Too far? We saved an entire planet. We stopped the Malvok. If that's too far, then what's the alternative? Letting them destroy us?" Derek hesitated. "I'm not saying what we did wasn't necessary, but the Leviathan, it's more than a weapon. It's a statement, and I'm not sure it's one the galaxy is ready to hear." Finally, Serena looked at him, her gaze sharp. "The galaxy doesn't need to be ready. They need to understand. For centuries, Earth has been underestimated, dismissed, controlled. That ends now." The emergency summit was held on Helios Station, the neutral heart of the Galactic Council. Delegates from every major faction gathered, their voices filling the grand chamber with heated arguments. Serena, flanked by Derek and Ambassador Helena Ross, stepped into the chamber with the poise of a predator entering a den of prey. The room fell silent as they took their place. "Earth must answer for the deployment of the Leviathan," one delegate declared, a towering reptilian figure from the Zorathian Dominion. "Such a weapon disrupts the balance of power." Serena's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "The Leviathan saved your precious balance. Without it, the Malvok would have overrun Caldron Prime, and your worlds would have been next." Another delegate, a crystalline being from the Avarice Collective, chimed in. "And what happens when Earth decides to use this weapon for conquest?" Serena's gaze was icy. "Earth has no interest in conquest. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves. If the galaxy wants peace, then let it stand with us. If it wants war, Then it will learn the cost. Outside the chamber, Derek pulled Helena aside. Do you think this will work? Serena's approach. It's bold, but it's also dangerous. Helena sighed. It's not about whether it works, Derek. It's about survival. Serena knows that the only way to ensure Earth's safety is to make the galaxy think twice before crossing us. Derek frowned. And if they don't? Helena didn't answer. The summit concluded with no clear resolution. Some factions aligned with Earth, recognizing the necessity of their actions. Others condemned them, calling for sanctions and restrictions on humanity's military power. The galaxy was now a fractured place, its unity shattered by fear of the unknown. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Raxor approached Serena. You've made your mark, Admiral. But be careful. Fear is a double-edged sword. It can protect you, but it can also destroy you. Serena met his gaze with unwavering resolve, then let it cut both ways. On the journey back to Earth, the tension aboard the Invictus was palpable. The crew knew the galaxy was watching their every move, and the weight of that knowledge was a heavy burden. Derek stood alone in the observation lounge, gazing out at the stars. He thought about the battles they'd fought, the lives they'd saved, and the enemies they'd made. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. Serena's voice echoed in his mind. Earth doesn't bow to fear. But Derek couldn't help wondering. What happens when the galaxy stops fearing and starts fighting back? The final stand. The Invictus orbited Earth in silence, its once brilliant hull marred by scars from the battles it had endured. The crew worked tirelessly to prepare for what they all knew was coming. Despite the victory over the Malvok and the dramatic show of strength at the Galactic Council, humanity's position in the galaxy was precarious. Allies were few and enemies were many. Admiral Serena Kane stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the holographic display of incoming transmissions. The galaxy wasn't waiting for long debates or diplomacy. Multiple factions were mobilizing fleets, claiming that Earth's use of the Leviathan Protocol was an act of aggression. What had been whispers of condemnation was now shaping into outright preparation for war. Admiral, the communications officer said, his voice tense, we've confirmed it. A coalition fleet is forming. They'll be here in less than 48 hours. How big? Serena asked, her tone calm. 3 times our current forces, and they've got ships from almost every faction. This isn't just a show of power. They're coming to end us. In the war room deep within the Invictus, Serena gathered her senior officers and advisors, including Captain Derek Cole and Ambassador Helena Ross. The tension in the room was palpable. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and the galaxy thinks we're the villains, Derek said, breaking the silence. What's the plan? Serena's gaze swept over the room. The plan is simple. We hold the line. Helena frowned. Against 3 times our forces. That's not holding the line. It's suicide. Serena smiled faintly. Not if we make them fight on our terms. She activated a hologram showing Earth's orbital defenses, a complex network of satellites, automated weapon platforms, and hidden mines designed to create a kill zone for any attacking fleet. We don't meet them head-on, Serena explained. We use Earth's defenses to bleed them dry. The longer we hold, the more their coalition fractures. They're united by fear, not loyalty. We make them regret ever challenging us. The hours leading up to the battle were filled with a nervous energy. Soldiers readied their weapons, engineers fine-tuned systems, and civilians on Earth prepared for the worst. Derek wandered through the corridors of the Invictus, observing the faces of the people who would be fighting for their lives and the survival of humanity. In the observation deck, he found Serena, as usual, staring out at the stars. You always seem so calm, Derek said, leaning against the railing. Don't you ever feel the weight of all this? Serena didn't look at him. Of course I do. Every decision I make could mean life or death for billions. But fear doesn't win battles. Conviction does. Derek nodded slowly. I just hope conviction is enough. The Coalition fleet arrived sooner than expected. Thousands of ships emerged from hyperspace, their sheer numbers blotting out the stars. The Invictus and the rest of Earth's fleet moved into position, forming a defensive perimeter around the planet. The Coalition didn't waste time. Their ships advanced, firing a barrage of energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. Earth's orbital defenses lit up in response, creating a dazzling display of destruction. Enemy ships were torn apart by mines and automated turrets, but the sheer number of attackers made it impossible to hold them all back. Serena's voice rang out over the comms. Focus fire on their command ships. Cut off their leadership, and the rest will falter. The human fleet fought with unmatched precision. Smaller ships used hit-and-run tactics, drawing enemy forces into traps. Larger vessels like the Invictus delivered devastating broadsides, crippling entire squadrons. But the Coalition was relentless, and their numbers continued to press forward. As the battle raged, a message came through from the Coalition flagship. It was a hologram of High Commander Taurix, a reptilian Zorathian, who had been one of the most vocal opponents of humanity at the Galactic Council. Admiral Kane, Taurix sneered, your defiance is admirable, but futile. Surrender now, and we might spare what's left of your planet. Serena's response was as cold as ice. You came here to make an example of Earth. Let me show you why that was your last mistake. She cut the transmission and gave the order. Activate the Aegis Protocol. Across Earth's orbit, hidden defense platforms powered up, revealing weapons that had been kept secret even from Earth's allies. These platforms didn't just target ships, they disrupted entire formations with gravimetric pulses, breaking apart the Coalition's carefully organized assault. Chaos erupted as ships collided, and their communications were thrown into disarray. Derek, watching from the bridge, couldn't hide his amazement. You've been holding back this whole time. Serena smirked. Always keep an ace in the hole, Captain. Despite the devastating counterattack, the Coalition refused to back down. Their determination pushed Earth's forces to the brink. Ships on both sides were falling, and the outcome was uncertain. Then the Leviathan emerged from behind Earth's shadow. Its massive silhouette filled the battlefield, its gravimetric cannon charging once more. The Coalition hesitated, their confidence wavering. Serena seized the moment. Fire. The Leviathan unleashed its weapon, creating a massive singularity that tore through the Coalition's central forces. The remaining ships broke apart, retreating in disarray. When the dust settled, the battlefield was eerily quiet. Earth's defenses had held, but at a great cost. The human fleet was battered, and thousands of lives had been lost. Serena stood on the bridge of the Invictus, her expression somber. We won, Derek said softly, standing beside her. For now, Serena replied. But this was just the beginning. The galaxy knows what we're capable of now. They won't stop. Derek frowned. Then what happens next? Serena turned to face him, her eyes blazing with determination. Next, we show them that humanity doesn't just survive. We thrive, no matter what they throw at us. As Earth's fleet regrouped and the remnants of the Coalition retreated, a new chapter in humanity's history began. They were no longer the underdog. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never forget it.